Okay, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. So if you need to mute the call for any reason, you can press *6, and then to unmute is *7. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining me tonight for Sugar Blues class. And let's start off by talking a little bit about what sugar is. Now, most people think about sugar like table sugar, refined white sugar, but sugar is actually in a lot of different things. So we have things like high fructose corn syrup that you find in sodas and lots of other products. And then there are natural sugars like honey and maple syrup. And then there's sugar even in the fruit that we eat, which is good for you. So sugar is really in everything, though, that we eat nowadays. You have sugar in breakfast cereals, donuts, muffins, even yogurt, frozen lunches, deli meats, desserts, cookies, cakes, and all of that. And believe it or not, the average American actually consumes 20 teaspoons of sugar a day. So we get a lot of sugar in our diet that we don't realize about. So I'd like to start off doing a little exercise to get everybody involved. I'd like you guys to start off and just tell me your name, and let's talk about what your favorite sweet was growing up and what your favorite sweet is now, and then how that affects you. So how does it affect you, your body, emotions, your energy level? So I'm going to go ahead and start off for the call. And as you all know, this is Natalie. And my favorite sweet growing up was red and brown licorice that my mom would mail me summer camp every year. And when I got older, my favorite sweet became chocolate, any kind of good chocolate, even Hershey's chocolate, but especially expensive good chocolate. And what I found in terms of my relationship with sugar was that when I get too much sugar, I start to just feel sick. I get a little bit hyper. It just doesn't feel good in my body. So that's my relationship with sugar. So, Meredith, would you like to start off and share with the group what your favorite sweet is and how it feels in your body?
Sure. My favorite sweet growing up was actually anything chocolate. I remember going down to the corner store and with my allowance money and buying candy bars. And I think that I still have a chocolate craving, although I tend to love, instead of going out and getting candy bars, I tend to indulge in desserts. So like apple pies and cakes and things like that. And it definitely it has a filling feeling for me. And I don't really get hyper or anything like that, but I can feel that I get a crash from it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you definitely notice that crash.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So who else would like to share with us?
Eileen, I'll share. Well, growing up, my favorite was, two things. One was Howard Johnson's ice cream cake roll and malted milk balls. But as an adult, I became lactose intolerant. So now it's just malted milk balls and red licorice. And if I don't have sugar, I feel horrible. So it's actually the opposite. Sugar makes me feel good, which is why I can't get off of it, because it has a positive effect.
Okay. So when you don't have it, you crave it more?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. And who would like to go next? Can I ask whoever's talking on their other phone or cell phone if they could just please mute the call with *6, because we're hearing the background on that call? Thanks. Okay.
It sounds like a television in the background. It might be a TV.
Okay. Yeah. Don't know. Somebody's got something going on. So, okay. Anybody else want to share? Can I pick on Magda?
All right. My name is Magda. My favorite sweet growing up. Oh my God, I loved everything. I wanted it all. I wanted all the candy. But I used to actually really like those little Debbie snacks, like the fudge rounds and the caramel crunch, and there was something else. Those are my favorites. Swiss rolls.
Okay.
And now it's just a combination of pretty much anything chewy. And desserts, definitely. Yeah, I think I just like all sweets. And as for my relationship with sugar, I'd say it's probably a combination of there are times when it makes me feel really bad, and there are times when actually I guess it really doesn't ever really make me feel that good, but sometimes it does. So.
Okay, so sometimes it makes you feel bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as we've seen, everybody has their own relationship with sugar. So for Magda, sometimes it makes her feel bad. For Eileen, she craves it. I think it sort of gives you energy. For Meredith, I think you said it gives you an energy high, but then you crash. So we can see that sugar in our diet has lots of different effects on all of us. And I just want to share with you a little bit about my story and my relationship with sugar, because I am a sugar addict, and I admit that. I eat very healthy, but that doesn't mean I don't crave sugar like everybody else. I love sweets, but I've learned to control it, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that during the call. But for me, probably around 9 or 10 years ago, I did not realize how much sugar I was getting in my diet. And I was getting chronic yeast infections, and I would go to the doctor, and they would put me on medicines, and nothing would take it away. And I started exploring and seeing what was going on, and I realized how much sugar was in my diet. So I was having oatmeal in the morning, but I was having the sweetened sugar oatmeal packets. Or I was having a banana nut muffin, which was loaded in sugar. And then I was having some sugar at lunch, maybe in my deli meats. And then, of course, I wanted my chocolate in the afternoon. So I was having sugar throughout my whole day and not realizing how much I was consuming. So that first awareness made me realize that I had to change my relationship with sugar. And that's how I began my journey. So I want to just share with you that I completely understand how all of you feel and how it affects your body. And let me tell you, you can change your relationship with sugar. So I want to start off by telling everyone that my intention for you this evening is to permanently change your relationship with sugar. And what that will take is for you to be here 100% and with the intention to permanently change your relationship with sugar. So I'd like you to listen and take part fully as if your life depends upon it, because I truly believe it does, because your life turns out completely differently when you're eating well and you understand food, because what we eat changes everything. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the expression, you are what you eat. And I truly do believe that, because what happens is we start off every day and we eat. Our food goes into our stomach, and then as it gets digested, it gets absorbed into our blood. And then our blood is what creates our cells and our tissues and organs and even our thoughts. So when we're eating meat or broccoli, we think differently, and we feel completely differently when we eat different foods, and when we drink coffee or alcohol, or when we eat sugar. So you feel, and your mind might be a little foggy, or it might be clear, and you can notice these differences if you pay attention to what you're eating. So here's a chance for you to get a handle on what you eat and drink. And I'm not talking about willpower or discipline, but really understanding what causes those crazy, uncontrollable cravings, and we can reduce them naturally. So here's the good news. Sugar isn't the problem, it's the solution in the short term. So I want to take a look at why we go for sugar. So very often what happens is we stay up late, we're up till 2 or 3 in the morning, or we don't get enough sleep because we're stressed about our job, or we have a lot of things on our mind. And then we wake up in the morning and we're really tired. So what do? We go for that cup of coffee with sugar added, or the Coke, even the Diet Coke, it has artificial sugars in it. Or we go for the donut or the muffin or anything with sugar to give us energy. And then what happens is we get a temporary high or temporary fix, and then we crash. And then we start craving it again because we crash, so we want that sugar and that artificial energy, that caffeine again. So it just becomes a vicious cycle. So let's talk a little bit about, in addition to not having enough sleep, what are the other things that cause this imbalance and craving for sugar? So are most people familiar with the term yin-yang?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. So I want to talk to you about yin-yang in terms of food. So just like in terms of the Chinese concept of yin-yang, we can also relate it to food. So food can be very yang, so things like meat, salt, all of that is yang. And then the opposite of that would be yin. So foods that are like greens, sugar, alcohol are yin. So oftentimes people are using or eating food that are too yang or too yin. And what happens is when you have food that's too yin or too yang, you crave the opposite because our body wants to come into homeostasis. It wants to come into balance. And to do that, it'll crave opposite foods. So let me give you a good example. Let's say you go to a restaurant or even just a bar, and what happens is you go to the bar, and what's out on the top of the bar are salty foods. It could be peanuts, but they're heavily salted, or popcorn. And what does that cause you to do? It causes you to crave just the opposite, sweets or sugar. So you get a sweet drink or alcohol, a glass of wine. And then it's just a vicious cycle. So it's the same thing with what they serve in the restaurants. They tend to very heavily salt the food because it will cause you to crave other foods and you will order more and it's a higher check. So the next time you guys go to a restaurant or a bar, think about it and see what's out there. And you'll see that it's the concept of yin and yang with food. And it's just attracting or wanting the opposite food. So oftentimes, we also use caffeine, and that's a non-nutritional form of energy, and that will cause us to crave opposite food. So in addition to the concept of yin and yang, a lot of times what causes us to crave sugar is protein. So it can be a lack of protein or too much protein. It could be insufficient water. It could be just low energy because we're just having a low energy day, so we start to crave sugar. And it could also be that we just want to be comforted. So when I work with my clients, what I ask them to do, and I'm asking you guys, and these are your tips, is to think about first, before you go and you have that sugar, to think about, okay, let's just take a deep breath, because maybe we're just, we're tired and we're not getting enough energy, enough oxygen, so we take a deep breath. And then to have a glass or two of water, to think about it. Have you had any water today? Because 99% of the time when you're craving sugar, you're dehydrated or you're hungry. But mostly, let's talk about dehydration. You've had no water. And then the body the sugar craving will mask itself. Instead of having water, it masks itself as sugar craving. So if you will stop and have a glass of water or two and then just wait 10 or 15 minutes and see, do I still want that sugar, that sweet? Now, maybe you've had a lot of water that day and you're still craving that sweet. So then what I ask my clients to do is to think about it. What are you really craving? Are you really craving that candy bar, that Reese's peanut butter cup, that huge piece of chocolate cake? Or is it something else that you're really craving? So let's put the food aside, because let's assume you've had the water and you've had sufficient food, protein, vegetables, fruits throughout the day. And maybe what you're really craving is something I call primary food. So let me explain that concept to everyone. We have what I call secondary food, which is the actual food and beverages we eat every day. But then we have what we call primary food. And primary food is what feeds your soul. It could be your career, your job, your relationships, your spirituality, your exercise, whatever feeds your soul and what your passion is. And so often when we are craving sugar, we're really craving primary food. We're really craving something else. And you have to think about, am I getting the nourishment from my life that I need? So what I ask my clients to do, and I'd like to ask you guys to do this as something when the call ends, and you can just take some time to do this for yourself, is to create what I call a nourishment menu. And a nourishment menu is different for every single person. So for me, a nourishment menu, and it's something I write out on a piece of paper, and I put it up on my refrigerator because, well, one, we all look at our refrigerator every day, and two, when we have that craving so often, especially like for ice cream, you see that nourishment menu on your refrigerator, and it makes you stop and makes you think about, what am I really craving and needing before you grab that ice cream. So let me talk about what's on my nourishment menu, and then maybe we can all just go around and share or think about what we want to put on our nourishment menu. So for me, when I'm craving sugar or I'm low energy and tired, I will do several things. I might go to the gym and take a yoga class because that really fulfills me and gives me the energy. Another thing I might do is to go for a walk. Like if it's a beautiful day and I'm in New York City, I go for a walk by the Hudson River. And then really the third thing I might do is to just pick up the phone and call a friend or call one of my sisters, because what I'm really craving most of the time is just the attention and the love that I'm not feeling that day. And what happens is I can go have that ice cream and I can go have that candy bar, and it's going to fulfill me for 20 or 30 minutes. It's going to give me some energy, or it's going to make me feel satiated or okay. And then what's going to happen is half an hour to an hour later, I'm still going to feel upset, tired, lacking energy, or whatever it is that really caused my craving is still going to be there. So I'd like to now open it up and ask everybody if they'd like to just share one thing that they could put on their nourishment list that fulfills you and gives you and feeds your soul. So can anybody